Welcome back to the Sylvester Show. We are taping the podcast today from the Education Center at the Alamo, the Shrine of Texas Liberty. If you haven't visited the Alamo lately, get down to San Antonio and take a look at what's going on. My guest on the podcast today is Senator Brent Hagenbuch. He represents Senate District 30 up in North Texas, around Denton. And we're so glad that he's come down to talk to us here. Before being elected to the state Senate in 2025, Senator Hagenbuch ran one of the largest transportation companies in the country. He served as an officer in the United States Navy Civil Engineers Corps. He has degrees from the U.S. Naval Academy, from Stanford, from UCLA. He is currently serving as chair of the Select Committee on Veterans Affairs. He's also vice chairman of higher education. He's on the regular education committee, public ed committee. He's on criminal justice. He's on transportation. He's on business and commerce. He's on religious liberty. It is really amazing that he had time to do this podcast. Senator Hagenbuch, here in Military City, I definitely want to ask you about your agenda on the Veterans Affairs Committee. But first, can we expand your biography just a little bit?
Sure. First, let me just say thank you for having me today. I appreciate you so much and all that you do. And this is a wonderful place, this education center to be at. It's the first time I've been here. It's fantastic. So,
great. Thank you for coming down. Yeah. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a small town, a rural town in Michigan. And I left there at 18 to go to the Naval Academy. It was got a congressional appointment. I don't think I would have went to college if I hadn't, may not have. My parents hadn't. So I got that appointment to the Naval Academy, and I go visit my mom, but I've never returned there. I was stationed all over the place, and then towards the end of my time in the Navy in California, and then we moved 30 years ago to Texas, and we've been raising our family here.
So you got to Texas as fast as you could.
I did.
You're in that category.
Yes,
I'm in that category as well. So in terms of the Select Committee on Veterans Affairs, like I said, this is Military City. I believe that we have the largest population. I know we have the largest population of veterans in Texas and maybe in America as well. A lot of veterans live here. What is the top issue or the top couple of issues you're dealing with on that committee?
Yeah. I'll get to that just real quickly. Our state has 1.5 million veterans, more than any other state.
Wow.
And I plan to do everything I can to make sure we take care of them. The state's done a pretty good job of that. But one of the big things we want to look at is fraud. We have these claims artists going to for veterans and trying to say, we will help you get your benefits, when they don't need to have anybody get them. They should be able to do it without that. And they will pretend to be the middleman and charge them 40, 50% of their first year benefits that they supposedly get for them. So we want to look into that. It is, yes. And related to that is, though, that last session, I was in the Veterans Affairs Committee, we put in place for the first time ever a database of all our veterans, which you would have thought we would have had, but we didn't. And this gives us a chance to do a better job of getting hold of all of them and putting information out to them so they can get direct from the state the information that they need for their benefits. So those are a couple of things we're doing. Another one is helping them transition to civilian life and good employment. And that's really important for us to do. There's a variety of ways we want to do that. But one way that's interesting is President Trump just came out the other day and talked about getting veterans to be truck drivers. You know, we had this problem.
I'm in the trucking industry. Your wheelhouse.
Yeah, we've had this problem with these trucking companies that are hiring, foreigners who don't have a good CDL and they don't know how to drive, they don't speak English. And so we've done a good job of getting those out. So we need more truck drivers. Well, let's bring veterans in. So we're looking at programs. We want to look at programs where we can help get them education, get them trained, and into a career in the trucking industry. So that's some of the things we're doing. We're also looking at we transferred mental health services from Human Health and Services to the Veterans Affairs Commission to do a better job on health, mental health for our veterans. And part of that is we also passed in the last session the ibogaine bill, which was $100 million for research into ibogaine, which we found can do amazing things and be very helpful to veterans, particularly if they have PTSD. So those are some of the things we're working on. There
was the change in Veterans Affairs. We have the Audie Murphy Hospital here, which is huge, and in the Trump budget, there's funding for expansion, kind of the next stage on that. And there's always been such a bad rap on the VA medical care.
Yes.
That really changed under Trump. And as a person who is from a military family, I can tell you that the VA was all over my husband's health care every step of the way. It was just exemplary.
Well, that's great to hear. I think a lot of people give it lip service, and thankfully President Trump took it seriously, and he's making a difference, and it's wonderful. We need to do that for our veterans. We need to take care of the people who sacrificed for us, don't we?
Yeah, it's being military city. We have we just USAA is contributing to the Alamo here, and we'll have a like a resting coordinating room down where you were near the gift shop, where active military can come and change their babies and get some water and kind of orient themselves for the visit here, because they spend a lot of time. We do a lot of promotion ceremonies here on the grounds.
I hadn't thought about that. What a great place to do a promotion. Yeah,
Right, yeah.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a
I'd like to come see one of those sometime.
well, we will make sure that you are invited. You're invited. So big week in Austin this week. I was there for the Higher Education Committee hearing. Where we have just passed Senate Bill 37, which reformed university governance and shifted the power away from faculty senates more to the regents
Yes.
at the universities. Been a lot of grumbling about this, but the impact has been terrific. What was your takeaway from those hearings?
Yeah, I think Senator Creighton, previous Senator Creighton, wrote the bill, and I had a chance to help him out with it a little bit. And then I think by providence, by will of God, he was one thing led to another. Now he's the chancellor of Texas Tech University. So I think the bill was written in the right spirit, in the right way, and he's leading the way and implement carefully. So he was there to testify. And you're right. There's two parts to it. One is to make sure that the people in charge are in charge. I remember when we had a hearing and there was some faculty there talking about shared leadership, that they wanted to have shared leadership. And I said, well, in the military, we call that shared leadership no leadership. Any organization is a clear chain of command. So, the faculty senate still have, can give advice, but the regents appointed by the governor, who the people of Texas, and the chancellor or the president are the people, just like any other good organization, who decide on hiring and other things. That was one big piece of it, which is important. The other piece is really we're working to get DEI out of our universities, those kind of ideologies. So every university has to do a complete curriculum review and have that done by the end of this year, going through all their curriculum, looking for places where we're pushing an ideology or indoctrination, and weed those out of our curriculum for two reasons. One is, well, we just don't believe in those things. We don't want to have Texas parents send their kids to school and be indoctrinated by some, frankly, liberal ideology, for one. Secondly, is we want to have them degrees of value, and that's a distraction. We want them to be working on things where they leave, they can pursue the American dream and have a good job and not have a bunch of college debt, and a job doesn't, they can't get any ROI on return on investment. So we're really looking at that ROI, actually, the return on investment of the cost of an education for what a student can make in their living going forward, and really getting more specific. I think Texas is really leading the way on this, which leads into the other thing you talked about, the funding of the community colleges, where we changed that. That's innovative, and people across the country are looking at it. We went to outcome-based funding. So before it was just how many students you had registered, sitting in the school. Now it's you only make money if you're a community college if they leave with something of value, like a welding certificate or HVAC certification, or move on to a 4-year college. That's the way the universities, the community colleges now are funded, which is great. So their focus is on making sure that these young people leave their place, they graduate or get a certificate and they are successful, and they move on to a career where they can make a good living and have a family and all those things. So, and that's was successful, actually too successful. We turned out more young people with those kind of certificates and degrees than we had expected. So we're a little over budget. So we're going to figure out how to deal with that. But that's not a bad problem in some ways. That I don't like to spend taxpayer dollars, but not a bad place to spend on our young people and them getting the certificates and degrees that they can make a good living on. So I'm thinking about, I had a bill last time about applying that to four-year colleges, which I think would be great to bring our colleges into more of a focus on less ideology, more on what's the marketplace asking for, and much more in tune with industry. And we talked about that a lot. I did as well. Are we talking to some of the innovators in industry and technology to try to stay up on what our young people have to be educated on. So it's good.
You're really right on Texas taking the lead. I'm working with a number of other states that are looking at Senate Bill 37 and kind of what we did in Texas that made it work. The addressing the hegemony of the faculty senate. They wanted first a seat at the table, then they wanted the whole table.
Yes, right, yeah.
So we have changed that, and we've got curriculum review. But the real thing that makes a difference in Texas is you and Senator Betancourt, who's on the Finance Committee, and other people saying to university leadership, you enact these policies, which the people of Texas have passed, or you don't get your funding.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's some teeth in it.
There's got to be teeth in it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The one piece of really good news that came out of that hearing, in having fought this, TPPF obviously supported this legislation. I worked very hard on it. So I was in lots of debates with people saying, well, you get rid of DEI, you're racist. This is the African Americans and Hispanic students particularly need this support coming into the university, this ideological support. It wasn't support, it was indoctrination.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So the statistics, and nowhere, all those programs have been in place for like 15 years, and the African American and Hispanic enrollment had flatlined.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Less than 10%, no impact. Now, as Senator Creighton pointed out, in Lubbock, Texas, African American enrollment's up 14%, Hispanic enrollment's up 16%.
Yes.
And that's people that are willing to go to Lubbock. Who knows what it's looking like?
It's looking at across the state, which was really interesting. I think there were some people who didn't particularly like the bill, who wanted to see that, thought they may reduce enrollment, we lose faculty, we wouldn't have diversity, and all those things are up and going in the right direction.
Right. Yeah, it's what we wanted, diversity. We didn't want people to be afraid to say.
That's right. Well, there's a lawsuit out there against Chancellor Creighton in Texas Tech, trying to say that he's violating the First Amendment and 14th Amendment rights. It's the opposite. This bill makes sure that everybody has free speech, not just one group, and stifling another. And this makes sure that everybody's background, their history, their race is treated equally, not trying to favor one, which is what happened before, frankly. And so I think it's very positive.
It's totally positive, and we know what's happened on those campuses. I mean, we know from surveys that liberals outnumber conservatives 3-1, 4-1. So it's not like the voice isn't there. This is much more.
Yeah, well, I believe that the liberals, the far left, saw, like in the Industrial Revolution, where they want to take over the means of production, for instance, of the communists. Mm-hmm. I think they realized this is the information age, and they took over the means of influence. And one of them is our higher education. And it's going to take some time to change the culture of those organizations. But we're going in the right direction. But it'll take some management changes too. I don't doubt that some people will buck this, and if they can't, look anyplace else. If you can't follow the mission of the organization, then maybe you need to be in another organization.
What about public school? We passed school choice. Being in San Antonio, the war for school choice actually began here.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Texas Public Policy Foundation was initially founded in San Antonio 32 years ago. And school choice was the priority. And, it took Samuel Adams 32 years from writing his thesis at Harvard till his signing the Declaration of Independence, of his declaring at Harvard that the college should be. So that's the same. So maybe that's how long it takes.
Maybe it does. I'm thankful for all the people who fought that battle for so many years. I was really fortunate to be my first year as a senator and get a chance to be part of passing that law. But it was because of a lot of work by a lot of people long in advance, and the Lieutenant Governor being one of them for sure. And now Chancellor Creighton was a big voice in that, big proponent, and force in making that happen.
What are you going to be looking for? I mean, because there've been lots of pot shots. It looks like the funding went to who we wanted it to go to.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Low-income students, students with disabilities. But
That's right.
in evaluating, we had more applicants than we had money.
Yeah.
So what are you going to be looking for from that program coming back the next year?
Yeah, a couple of things. I think one is the funds that we put out that those are being used accurately, right? I mean, the comptroller's what he's doing what he needs to make sure that they're financially used the right way, and I believe they will be. But we want to check that. We're not checking. There's no strings attached to these private schools or home schools in terms of Big Brother looking at their curriculum or trying to test them, or that the parents decide to take them, they can do that. That's their prerogative. But we do want to make sure that the funds are getting to the right place and being spent the right way. And so from a fiduciary responsibility, we want to look at that, I think. But the other thing is we rolled out, was the biggest rollout of any state ever, $1 billion to start a school choice program. But that's less than a couple percent of all. We have like 5.6 million K through 12 kids. So I think we want to try to look at how we can expand that to more families as we move forward.
Right. Some amazing things have been happening. I mean, people believe that choice shifted the focus to private schools and homeschooling, but no, we've always known public schools, and we're finding these miraculous things that are happening in Houston with the state takeover. And we made a difference there.
Sure. No, we did not forsake our public schools. We know from looking at other states that the most we'll ever probably get is 5 or maybe 10% of the students will be in school choice program. So the vast majority of our students are still going to be educated in public schools. So we had the biggest funding increase in public schools on that last session than we've ever had, $8.5 billion. Half of that went to giving teachers raises, which is really important.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, let me shift a little bit to an area that I know you know a lot about, and that's transportation. What changes need to be made in our transportation system? It seems to me like all the cities are drowning in traffic congestion. So, and Texas continues to grow. We've got all these, we're now, what is it now, more Fortune 500 companies than any other.
Sure.
state.
Yes. Our success is causing problems. It's high quality problems. We need to deal with them though.
Uh-huh.
In all parts of our infrastructure. TxDOT says they have an estimate we're going to grow 40% by 2050. That's 9 million more people. That's the size of more than the size of several states, many states.
Uh-huh.
So that's how many people we're going to add by 2050. So you have population growing up, but real spending after inflation because of Biden printed money, regrettably, the dollar doesn't go as far. Everybody knows that, right? So real spending on transportation is actually declining slightly. So we need to take a hard look at that and figure out how we're going to deal with this. I'm a proponent of that we did something we did about 25 years ago with, and Robert Nicholas led this. He thinks it's the right thing to do now too. He's leaving the Senate. He's been a big sort of mentor of mine in a lot of ways, and is to get a commission together and look at whether we're making enough investment in our road infrastructure. And I think we probably need to make a bigger investment than back then. It was Governor Perry, and they made a big decision to go to Prop 1 and 7, which was funding through gas tax and a portion of sales tax to make sure our roads were there. And thank God they did, or we'd look like L.A. or Georgia, Atlanta. I mean, we have issues, but it's a lot better than it could have been. So. But we need to probably put another infusion in if we want to remain, I think, a leading state in business, because you have to have the supply chain to do that.
Right. Now,
the thing we have that they didn't have 25, 30 years ago is new technology. So this is an interesting thing to me is like autonomous vehicles. Can we find a way to use autonomous vehicles? I think are the future. We have more traffic fatalities than any other state as well, 4,000 a year. That's a big thing. We should work on that. I would think one day we'll have autonomous vehicles, and our grandkids will say, how many people died on the road before? I think we can cut it to almost zero. I seriously believe we can eventually. But one thing that we can do with those autonomous vehicles, I believe, is things like maybe put a dedicated lane for them, and they can platoon, and we call platooning, driving this far apart at 80 miles faster an hour, and be very safe. And what that might, I have studied a lot of things in business school and business. manufacturing plants tries a way to put more throughput through the system that they have. So I think we can find ways through smart roads and autonomous vehicles to try to better utilize and more efficiently utilize the roads we have, take some traffic off. But we're also going to have to just do some more construction, and we're going to take a hard look at what investment we need to make in our roads going forward.
So it's one of the challenges. Well, I know you set in hours of hearings on data centers this week.
Yes.
So where does that fit into that equation?
Well, it fits in that, Robert Nichols, I just mentioned him, he said to me, you need 4 things for a functioning society. You need water, power, roads, and education. So we're talking about those things right now, right? And I feel like as a Texas senator, it's like being a board member on the 8th largest economy in the world. And I feel like a real responsibility that I have to be thinking 20, 30 years ahead, right? In all those areas, so roads, water, power. So this was power. Education as well, and we just talked about that. Now, this is looking at power overall. Data centers are a piece of it, but the hearings yesterday were about grid security and 765, these new higher voltage transmission lines we're thinking of putting, which are very expensive. But those would be coming along anyway, so we want to look at our grid security. We had Uri. We want to make sure that we're not going to have that again. And as we grow, just like the roads, we have to put more transmission in probably. But the data centers exacerbate that because it's just so much more demand, so much more load than we've ever had before. So that adds to it. So a lot of thinking about, is our grid secure now? Do we have enough dispatchable energy, which is thermal energy? I don't think we added a lot since Uri, to tell you the truth. Base natural gas burning plants. So we're going to be looking at whether we need to do a little bit more to the way the market's designed to encourage more reliable energy. We'll see if that's necessary or not. There's been some measures taken already, and those might be enough, but we're going to evaluate that. And then these 765 kV voltage lines. Right now we use 345 volt lines. So these are a big step up, but they're like electron highways. Uh-huh. And they're more modern technology. Many states are using them. Ours is probably a little bit behind in this. And
so are these wires? Is that what you're talking about?
They're huge. Yeah, they're huge wires with very large towers and lines that will carry. The higher the voltage, this electrical engineering thing, is the less resistance you have, meaning the less loss of power. So if the same distance you would travel over, you lose less actual electricity in the process. But also it just carries more. And so there's a whole debate. There's a lot of question whether we really need these or not. They're supposed to cost a lot of money, like $33 billion. We don't want the ratepayers to pay more. But we also, just like we're talking about with highways, we also don't want to get caught in a situation where we have not invested to keep up with our population growth. So I learned a lot yesterday. I'm not sure where I stand on those, for example, yet. A little more to learn. But those are some important decisions we have to make.
Is a lot of the opposition from what you heard in the hearing, and I only know enough about this to be dangerous. I haven't really researched it, although we've got TPPF is doing a lot of research on this, so I hope you will reach out to them because they.
Yes, TPPF is a great ally in so many ways. So right. Yes, yeah.
Is the opposition, is it built around people's apprehension about AI?
Well, I don't hear that as much. I hear my communities are concerned. They just don't want a data center in their neighborhood. And I can understand that. We need to be empathetic to that. So there's pros and cons in data centers. And I think if we manage the pros, the downsides, and mitigate those, they can be very positive for us. The upsides are, I have a county where there's a young county where there's maybe 40,000 people total population. Their tax base is less than $1 billion property tax. A data center coming in there would be more than $1 billion a year, more than doubling it. If we talk about trying to get rid of property tax, that might be a way to do it. We can leverage this AI revolution. We need. Another thing is for national security, we need to put these in place. Mm-hmm. They do provide some employment, a lot during construction, some continuous employment. Those are some of the positives. But you have to overcome the negatives. And so we in government are going to have to deal with these. These are making sure they don't use up all our water, they use up all our power, that they don't get put right next to a housing community. They're placed in the right place, or they're far enough away. We have noise problems, light problems. If they turn into a white elephant, they all move them up to space with Elon Musk, 5, 6 years from
Put 'em
now.
on the moon.
They're not sitting there, so we're talking about exit agreements where we have escrow where there's money if they shut them down if we need to. These are things we've thought through a lot. Senator Perry's really helping lead in the thinking on this. And the governor's come out with some things that are very important. I think they can be very positive, and there's some evidence that, by the way, our foreign adversaries are whipping up discontent and concern about these as part of what's going on here, which is a concern. I believe that they're important for the future of our state and our nation, but we in government, local and at the state level, need to put some real guardrails in place, like I just talked about, to make sure that I believe they're also an answer to our power issue. They need dispatchable energy. They can't use wind and solar. They have to have continuous power. Mm-hmm. So they're willing to build, and they're deep, deep pockets. I believe we can get them to help build the more
the
reliable.
data center people.
The data center people, if we do this the right way, I think they will. They want to be in the Texas grid. Even though we had Uri and things like that, the Texas grid is the envy of the country, maybe the world. It's even though it's not perfect, it's a lot better than most other places.
We're the only state with our own grid.
Right. So they want to be on that grid. So the people of Texas have a valuable, rare commodity, and these people have deep pockets. I think we may have an opportunity to get them to contribute to the infrastructure. We're just going to have to make sure we are smart about how what requirements we put in place before we approve a data center.
I want to ask you a little bit more about AI, but I just wanted to say, you said something that I want to make sure that our viewers know, which is that Texas state senators represent over 1 million people, and so more than Congressmen.
Yes.
It's because we have 31 senators, and so as the population gets bigger than each pie, and you represent urban areas like Denton.
Yes.
And very rural areas.
Right, yes. Mm-hmm.
So we are now sitting here at the Alamo. We are in Jose Menendez's district.
Yes.
Adjacent to Roland Gutierrez and Donna Campbell. Yeah. But that's a pretty big chunk of this part of the state.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I have to brag about my part of the state. I think it's fantastic. I think you have the highest population of any Senate district because we're growing so fast. Salina, for example, is the fastest growing city in the country.
Wow. Yeah,
and Prosper is probably 5th or 6th. It's growing so rapidly, and there's so many great things going on. We have the Silicon Prairie up in Grayson County near Sherman, where we're building silicon chips, huge chip plants that's gone in there, and there's more on that industry going in. You got Frisco; it's a world-class city. We have the PGA headquarters, the Star there. They just put a Universal theme park there. So many that make great things going on in my district. That it's exciting. You have Taylor Sheridan, filming out in Weatherford area. We have a burgeoning wine industry that they're making great wines up in Montague County. So you should come. You should come sometime. It's beautiful up there. It's rolling hills. You can see the Red River, and you have vineyards, and it's really a beautiful place, and there's a lot happening there. It's exciting.
So that's actually one of the questions I had to ask you, that we continue, when the jobs reports come out every month, the national jobs reports, and they announce how many jobs have been created. What they don't announce, which Governor Abbott does 2 or 3 days later, it's usually about half of them are in Texas.
Yes, exactly.
And,
right, yeah.
Much more than anybody else. And as you say, there are thriving businesses and thriving in just every area. What's the biggest threat, as you see it, to how well Texas is doing, 8th largest economy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think one of them off the top of my head is just we talked about is we have to invest in the infrastructure to support that, to continue the growth. And well, it's funny. I'll tell you, when I was campaigning, the border was a big deal. This was before President Trump was reelected.
I remember.
And of course, but it was such a big topic on his campaigning.
Right.
And I was talking to one lady in one rural area about the border, and she was going on and on about the border and how it was terrible they were coming across. And after a little while, I realized she was talking about the Oklahoma border. She wants to build a wall there, but some people would like to slow it down, but I don't know that we can do that. So we have to realize it. So we want to make sure we take care of the people we have here and prepare for the future. And for business to keep coming, we're going to need to continue. They'll ask questions like just those 4 things I talked about. Do you have the education we need for the workforce we need? You have the power we need, water, all those things. So taking care of the infrastructure is important for the long run. And then other than that, we just have to keep low regulation and low taxes. I mean, that's been a great place to do business here, right? And we need to make sure we don't lose those free market principles that make companies thrive.
I think that that's part of why San Antonio is military city. I think you've got people who have, once they retire from the military, option of where to settle. This is a state with no state income tax.
Right.
You come here, and the facilities for veterans are pretty amazing.
Right. Yeah. So we get all those great veterans, and like I say, we want to help them find good jobs. And I don't think there's a better place in the world to look for a good job than Texas.
Absolutely. Well, now, one of the threats that many people are seeing, and it's hard to get to the truth of it. I know you're on the special committee on religious liberty. What about the push on Sharia?
Yeah.
And what we're seeing and what that means to people, the Islamification of the
Yes,
state.
it's very concerning. Let me be clear here. We have, the First Amendment is freedom of religion, and we're going to protect that. If somebody's Muslim, or that's different. I'm going to talk about next. But Sharia is Islamist jihadist. They call it civil jihad, which is there's a group, not all Muslims, but there's a group in this state operating that I think really are conducting essentially holy war through using our laws against us. And I think they're embedded in our banking system, our education system, our real estate. And they try to set up these enclaves, like they did up in the Epic and near where my district is, like it happened in Dearborn. It's happened in the UK. We can't let that happen in Texas. I'm determined not to. We're sitting here in Alamo. Colonel Travis drew a line in the sand, right? Said, and to me, that was a symbolic stand to say that this is where no one's going to take this land from us. And that's the same I feel. That's the same I feel about these people. They want to take some of them want to take what we have here, and we're not going to let it happen. So I believe we need some things. In the last century, we went after organized crime, the mob, and took some time, years, to weed them out and to use some innovative laws, RICO laws and things. I think we need to do something like that. We also have, the governor banned a couple of the Muslim Brotherhood and CARE. We need to do that legislatively, I believe. That was sort of an executive order the governor did. But according to experts, there's 3 or 4 at least other networks that are just as bad or worse that we need to identify, I believe, and make sure that they can't do business here. They can't be involved in our schools, our real estate, et cetera. So we have some real work to do. And if you talk to people in the UK, they'll tell you we should have done this 20 years ago. And we're not going to let them get a foothold here in our state, as far as I'm concerned.
I know. I've studied a lot of the problems that they had in the UK, and have also talked to people here in Texas where women are in situations where they can't get divorced because they're working through the person they want to divorce is insisting that they are in a Sharia system.
Yeah, and
where women have no control.
We have laws that basically say you got to follow U.S. law, and the Sharia law is illegal. But what's different is they're operating under it, whether they're saying it's Sharia law or not, and people are being oppressed, like women, you say. So we have to find a way. This is not religion. This is a form of alternative government, I think, in society, and we need people. We've always been a welcoming country, state of immigrants, but you when you come here, you buy into our values and you integrate in. You don't try to set up your own separate values and fight the system, and try to put your own form of government in. Essentially, whether they make it official or not, I think they're operating under that in some cases. Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up here, what do you believe is the biggest priority for conservatives moving forward? I mean, the onus is really on us. People from all over the country look at Texas. What is it, 1,000 people a day move here?
Yes, yeah.
They move out of New York, out of California, they move here. They look at us because of the affordability of our state. And as you say, low reasonable regulations, low taxes, good schools, and getting even better.
That's right.
What is what's at risk and what do we need to make sure we don't lose?
Yeah. Well, I'll say, if you don't mind, two things. First off is our values. I have on the wall in my Senate office, I wrote down what my key priorities, and one of them versus restore or maintain Judeo-Christian values. So that's what I think our country and state are built on, and we can't lose those. So in the last session, we put the Ten Commandments in the schools, back in schools, we put prayer back in schools, those kinds of things.
You did that, but doesn't that mean that you're pushing Christian religion?
Well, no, actually, because when we put Ten Commandments in, we looked at historically in the United States. That was a document that it's been since the beginning of the time that we had a Supreme Court building, for example. So historically, those documents and those things were part of our history, and I think we can prove part of the basis of what the founding fathers founded this country on. We're not saying that there's a state religion by any means, but we as Christians don't have to kowtow or be ashamed of the fact that our faith is what, in God we trust. It's what I think the values that our system was built on. And I think we can be open about that. We don't have to say that anybody has to be a Christian, but we don't also have to deny that that's what I think really is the founding values of this country. That's really important, I think, just to keep those values.
And for people to understand them, I know I wrote a newspaper headline in The Statesman what talked about the Sermon on the Mount. And I thought that was pretty funny that they didn't catch that was an error and started looking at, before the Sermon on the Mount, the idea that people were equal, that women were equal.
Jesus,
that's all that's Western civilization.
That's right, absolutely.
That's the whole.
That's exactly right. So we have to maintain that, right? And so we're looking at one of the interim charges the lieutenant governor has is to look at helping educate our kids in those areas in our schools even better. Western civilization, American exceptionalism, what our real values are. The other area I would say, if I can have two, is just that you mentioned affordability. That's a big issue with people these days. Texas is more affordable in some ways than a lot of other states, but still difficult here for young families because Biden printed money. The dollar doesn't go as far as it did, and we're still trying to recover from that. So we need to do things to help with affordability. So we need to cut property taxes. I believe we're going to do that. I was talking about earlier about insurance affordability. That's a big cost. My constituents, when I ask them, has your auto insurance and home insurance gone way up? They feel like it's doubled. We're going to do some things to try to address that. And then we have to make sure we keep producing great jobs. Because in the end, I think the way that we're going to get out of in this state, what Biden did to our economy is grow our way out of it and continue to raise those wages for young families so they can have a chance to pursue happiness in the American dream.
I think the other piece that you're working on, let me add to your answer here, is that in analyzing the different generations, where this generation is in so much trouble is student loan debt.
Yes.
And so if we do what you're talking about doing is making sure that you get a return on your investment. And
yeah, it's going to be great. Great for our young people and great for the industry that's coming in here. So I think it'll be a model for the rest of the country as time goes on.
Yeah. Chairman Hagenbuch, great to have you in on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Really enjoyed it. Appreciate everything you do and all your help you've been to me.
And thank you all for joining us on the Sylvester Show. You can sign up for this podcast at Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to sign up for my weekly email, Winners and Losers, you can do it at www.texaspolicy.com. I'm also on Substack. See you next time.